Hi everybody, it's Richard here again, and welcome to another video. This time I thought I would rank Marc Bolan and T.Rex albums. There's 12 altogether, 4 of which are Tyrannosaurus Rex and 8 of which are T.Rex. This spans from 1968 to 1977, where unfortunately Marc was killed in a car crash. So, without further ado, I shall start off with, before I actually start, every album has got something that's actually quite good on it. There's no real clunkers here. Obviously, with ranking them, there's some that are better than others, but each album I will try and give you the positives of it and maybe the best tracks. If there are any serious clunkers on each of the albums, I'll tell you which ones I think are terrible, which songs I think are terrible. But generally speaking, 12 albums are all pretty damn good. Some are totally excellent. So, the least for me is from 1975. This is Bolan's Zip Gun. This is actually a mishmash album. In 1974, Bolan released an album in America called Light of Love, which is basically this album with a few tracks missing and a few tracks from a previous album put on instead. This is Marc Bolan trying to do his super funk soul or cosmic soul or whatever. It doesn't really work, but this album could have been so much better, because in the 90s there was a series of Unchained CDs which came out with outtakes from this album, and there's 3 in particular. Lock Into Your Love, which is absolutely wonderful, and it does have a real soul sound to it. I think he should have been brave and put that on here. Love For Me is another one, and Sanctified is the third one, which could have fit on this brilliantly. There's a minor hit single off this called Light of Love, which hit number 22 I think in the charts, but this was the start of his decline. Zip Gun Boogie, it was the second single from this, and it's a bit plotty, to be honest with you, but there are some good songs on this, like Think Zinc, Solid Baby, and what's the other one I actually quite like? Golden Belt, which was recorded for this album. It wasn't on The Light of Love. However, this does feature one of the worst songs he's ever recorded in his life, and that's called Precious Star. It's got a very simple melody and even more simple lyrics. Oh, what a precious star you are. Oh, what a precious star you are. No, sorry, not for me. But still not a bad album, so that's number 12. Number 11, which might surprise a few of the Marc Bolan fans for me, is Dandy in the Underworld. This was his last album. This is very slickly produced. I think it's maybe a little overproduced, but it features the hit single I Love to Boogie, which was a hit the year before this came out. I think it was only added to this album to boost sales. This is not a bad song. It's a very basic rockabilly rock and roll song, but the standout tracks on this are Dandy in the Underworld, Teen Riot, Structure. The rest, again, the lyrics are a little bit twee, to say the least. It was a bit of a comeback. The album charted in 77. It got down number 28 or something, but it only stayed in the charts for a couple of weeks, so it wasn't a massive comeback as such. But it's still not a bad album, and that's Dandy in the Underworld. Number 10, I'm going to go with Zinc Alloy and the Hidden Riders Tomorrow, or Queen Cage in August. This is a 74 album. This is a very difficult listen, but it does get rewarding after a while. The hit single off this is The Sublime Teenage Dream. Venus Loon, the opener, should have been a single. It's catchy enough to be a single. And the other tracks I like off this are Liquid Gang, and change. But the problem with this is that Tony Visconti more or less left 3/4 of the way through here, and supposedly Marc finished off the production duties. This has got a production style I think similar to the Rolling Stones' Exile on Main Street. It's very, very trebly in sound, not enough bass on it. And the other thing that's wrong with this is that the backing singers are too high in the mix, far too high in the mix. In fact, they drown everyone out. One other criticism is that in this album, Marc Bolan thinks he's Jimi Hendrix, which he's not. He goes overboard with some of the guitar solos, but generally it's not a bad album. It takes a bit of getting used to them. Number, let me see, number 9 is Futuristic Dragon. This is a 76 album, but the majority of us recorded it in 75. 2 hit singles, New York City and Dreamy Lady. Getting the Bad Things Over first, this has got a second worst song ever called My Little Baby. Again, the lyrics are so twee, it's unbelievable. But why I like this, it contains 3 absolutely wonderful songs. Sensation Boulevard, which should have been the first single, never even was a single. Jupiter Liar, which is as catchy as hell, and Calling All Destroyers, which is a very good rocker. It also features a song called Ride My Wheels, which a lot of people don't like, but it is that there tells me that he's getting more into soul music, more so than on the previous album. The production in this is a little bit muffled and it's very keyboard heavy, but again, I still enjoy this album very much. Okay, number 8 is the first Tyrannosaurus Rex album to feature in this list. It's actually their second album from '68. Hippie trippy, wonderful mystical lyrics that you haven't got a clue what he's singing about, but I still enjoy it. The highlight of this is Consuela, which I adore. It's one of my favourite songs of all time. This is Marc and Steve Took sitting cross-legged on the floor, Marc strumming his guitar, Steve banging on a pair of bongos, and some really good songs. There's a reworked version of Deborah in this, which is not as good as a single. Salamander Palaganda, Eastern Spell, Old Harley. It is all hippie stuff, but it's really, really enjoyable. Number 7 is Tyrannosaurus Rex's first album. My people were fair and had sky in their hair, but now they're content to wear stars on their brows. This is similar to the first album, really. Again, it's hippie dippy stuff, quite trippy, and that their cover work is fantastic. It's a picture by George Underwood, who was the guy responsible for punching David Bowie in the eye over a girl and leaving him with a permanently dilated pupil. This here doesn't have any hits or anything on it. This actually is a double version. All the Tyrannosaurus Rex albums I've got now are the actual deluxe double versions. But some great songs off this, like Scene Scoff, Child Star, Shadow and Virginia Waters, Afghan Woman. Again, it's an acquired taste, but once you acquire that taste, you know, it stays with you. I've had a different version of this album for absolute donkey's years. It's one of the first Bolan albums I ever bought. Okay, so number 6, and we're still on Tyrannosaurus Rex, and this is Unicorn. This is like his mini Phil Spector wall of sound, created using Woolworths instruments, or B&M bargain instruments, as you would say now. This has got a lovely feel to it, and it's probably the most accessible of all the Tyrannosaurus Rex albums. Chariots of Silk is an absolutely wonderful song, as is Cat Black, a reworking of an old demo we did a couple of years previous. She Was Born to Be My Unicorn is, as the title suggests, it is really trippy stuff. If you were going to go for any Tyrannosaurus Rex album to start with, I would probably recommend Unicorn. I think it is the most accessible, wonderful album from 1969, and the last one to feature this guy, Steve Took. So we're going into the top 5, and number 5 I'm going to give it to the T.Rex album from 1970. This is the first one under the truncated name T.Rex. In America this included the hit Ride a White Swan, in Britain it didn't. Again, this is, I think, quite similar to Unicorn rather than what's going to be actually the next choice. The classics of this are Jewel, which is a real funk out number, and Beltane Walk, which could easily have been a single. This is very laid back. It's a beautiful album. It's very laid back, very acoustic, so it hasn't really changed much from the Tyrannosaurus Rex days. But yeah, I would give this as number 5, a very strong, solid album. Number 4 is my favourite Tyrannosaurus Rex album, is A Beard of Stars, and this is where he introduces the electric guitar. Not to great effect, because he wasn't at this time the greatest of electric guitarists. He never was, actually. But there's a charm to this. The highlights are things like Fist, Heart, and Mighty Dawn Dark is a really good song, and one of the best songs from the whole Tyrannosaurus Rex era is Lofty Skies. This is the first to feature Mickey Finn, who replaced Steve Took. Mickey Finn was really brought in for 2 reasons. One, he looked like Steve Took. That's Mickey Finn there. Sorry. And 2, he was a pretty boy. He wasn't a very good bongo player. So it made the whole Tyrannosaurus Rex T-Rex look pretty. But still, in saying that, it's a very fine album. There's a song on here called Great Horse, which Morrissey picked for one of those Under the Influence albums about 15 years ago, where he picked a load of songs that influenced him. Well, Great Horse was the one that he picked off this. Again, there's some acoustic stuff on here, but the electric guitar is more to the fore, and again, this is my favourite Tyrannosaurus Rex album. So, we're getting down to the top 3. Number 3, The Slider. This is his real, true glam rock album. 2 number 1 hit singles, Metal Guru and Telegram Sam. Beautiful song called Spaceball Ricochet, Rabbit Fighter's gorgeous, Mystic Lady's gorgeous, The Slider is such a groove, and Buick McCain is such a rock out that even Guns N' Roses covered it. This is one of the 2, if you're getting into T-Rex to start with, I would actually suggest you start with. That's The Slider from 1972. Now there's only 2 left. Which one do I pick? My head says to pick this next one as number 1, but my heart puts it at number 2. So I'm going to go with my heart, and it's at number 2, and this is Electric Warrior. So if you can get that, this is a pretty, that's not beat up, it's just old copy I have. It's an early 80s one. This has got Get It On and Jeepster on it. This is what really blew him up into a superstar in the UK. Mambo's Son is unbelievably good. Cosmic Dancer is now becoming as famous as the singles. Life's a Gas is a beautiful ballad. The Motivator has got a really good groove to it. This, along with The Slider, are the 2 I would suggest you start with if you don't know anything about T-Rex. This is a number 1 hit album, and I think it's most record stores now, if they only ever stock one T-Rex album, it's this one. I'm quite right, so that's Electric Warrior at number 2. My favourite T.Rex album comes from 1973, and that's Tanks, and this doesn't have any hits on it at all. On paper you would say, why is this your favourite? And I say, I don't know, because it's the one I keep coming back to all the time. Some of the songs sound as if they're half finished. I like Shock Rock, Madonna and Country Honey, but I love them. They've got a punch there, and there's a sound to this. He's bringing in female singers properly in this one. They're not overbearing. There is more of a soul sound. There's horns brought into this. It could have been better. 20th Century Boy was released around the same time, and maybe should have been on this album. But highlights on this include the absolutely disgustingly raunchy, dirty, oily, greasy rapids. What a lick on that song. It's a fantastic song. Highway Knees, Left Hand Look, and The Beggar Boys, and of course Born to Boogie, which is on this, which is the B-side of Solid Gold Easy Action. So that's my #1 album. It's the one I come back to. So there you go. There's T.Rex. My countdown of their albums from 12 to 1. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and I shall see you soon. Bye. Hi, it's Richard again. I thought I'd add this on, maybe make this a video of its own or add it on to the previous T.Rex video. But I was thinking when I was doing that T.Rex video of a few weird facts. It's almost like conspiracy facts that I thought I would mention. You might find these interesting. Okay, where do I start? It's not very nice, but it is with regarding to Marc's car crash, his death and so forth. If you don't agree, well, it's not really conspiracy theory, but there's certain things that link it to the death. Well, you see what I mean. Okay, one of the very first songs Marc ever recorded way back in the early 60s was a song called The Road I'm On, Gloria, which is on this box set, the CD box set. It's actually the first song on disc 1. And unfortunately, when Marc was killed, who was driving the car the road was on? Gloria Jones. So it's things like that that make me go, oh my gosh. Also on the song Solid Gold Easy Action, there's a lyric that says picking foxes from a tree. Okay, what does that mean? Well, whenever the car crashed, it allegedly crashed into a tree, although some say it actually crashed into a steel barrier. But every year a lot of Marc Bolan fans go around the sycamore tree and pay homage in September 1977. So picking foxes from a tree, the car crashes into the tree, and the registration of the car was Fox 6611. Interesting. Also, if you haven't turned off yet, in 1977 Marc Bolan had a TV show called Marc, and where he played songs, mostly reworks of his old hits plus a few new songs, and had different guests. But rather than, you know, there be silence between each performance, there was this sort of cartoon drawing of the audience clapping. Okay, I'll try and get a picture in here now. Okay, if you've seen the picture, you will see I have circled around two pictures. One of a guy with a beard and long moustache, long hair, and one of a guy at the back. Now, I will say that the very last person to appear on the Marc Bolan show was David Bowie. Now, if you look at that picture, if you see that picture, those two guys are wearing shirts with a black star on it, which is the same as the CD version of David Bowie's Black Star. Marc Bolan died a few days after recording that. David Bowie died a few days after releasing Black Star. The circle person at the back is reminiscent with the curly hair of Marc Bolan, to say he's wearing the Black Star and he dies a couple of days later. So what is the first one coming as? Well, you could say that he looks a little bit like Lemmy out of Motorhead, and he's wearing the Black Star, and Lemmy dies about a couple of weeks before Black Star is released. Interesting. It's not a conspiracy theory, and it's a load of rubbish, but it's interesting to look at. And another interesting one, which is actually to do with David Bowie, it's not really to do with Marc Bolan, was everybody knows this album here. This is The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. Iconic album. This was released in, what date was it? The 16th of June 1972. Okay? Now, 5 years later, well, first of all, the first song on this album is called 5 Years, basically saying we've got 5 years left to live. Okay? Now, as I say, this was released on the 16th of June 1972. On the 8th of June 1977, 5 years later, who was born? Do you see that? Kay West. On that date, the 8th of June 77, Kanye West was born. What does that say? The end of music? I don't know. So there's a couple of wee things for you to ponder about. Interesting, but really insignificant, but still I thought I'd put it out there. So, okay, that's me this time. All the best. Bye bye.